recording button. I am recording. I'll move you over to just...
Oh. Michigan.
So, our story begins in Arnoldsburg, Michigan, during the 1920s. Upon a hill stands the modest house of Thomas Kimball. It stands solitary, a lone sentinel on the outskirts of the town. Its wooden frame was unremarkable, but the desolate surroundings gave it a haunting quality. The house was situated next to a cemetery, with headstones and mausoleums casting their long shadows onto the property. Despite its eerie location, the house was cosy though and inviting. The interior was modestly furnished with wooden floors and rustic decor that gave it a homely feel. The living room was adorned with a stone fireplace that crackled merrily, offering warmth and comfort on chilly nights. Upon arrival at the Kimball house, you both quickly settled into one of the spare bedrooms. They are sparse, with simple beds and little else. Yet, despite its lack of extravagance, it exudes a sense of peacefulness and calm. Perhaps it is the proximity to the cemetery that keeps the spirits at bay. But why are you here, you ask? Well, you are two hopefuls looking to join the Society for the Exploration of the Unexplained. On promise of entry as reward, you have agreed to investigate the case of Thomas Kimball. It seems that Thomas Kimball's house, the one you are currently occupying, has been burglarized, and some of his uncle's favourite books have been stolen. The mystery is a little unusual, as the uncle, Mr. Douglas Kimball, inexplicably disappeared without a trace a year ago. Mr. Kimball would like you to find out who stole the books, return them if possible, and discover the whereabouts of his uncle and whether he is still alive if possible. As we stand in the empty and bare rooms, two figures unpacking their bags look across at each other. Tom, would you like to introduce your character? And also tell me exactly what brought them here and what brought them into wanting to join the society. A little about their history, what their goals are. Yeah.
Shelby Boucher is a presumptuous man. He believes that anything and everything can be figured out, but that traditional science restrains itself with its adherence to certain methodologies and dismissal of other things. He believes that with a powerful enough intellect, one could figure out just about anything. And I think perhaps in discussion, boasting with his friends, he heard about this Society of the Unexplained and bragged that nothing would remain unexplained for long with him on its tail. He is in his early 20s. He comes from wealth, a family who made money off of inherited family estates from long ago. He is an intelligent man, despite his bragging. He has studied um, all manner of different subjects. He's studied theology, he's studied history, he's studied beginnings of psychology, psychoanalysis. He's got a pet love for Freudian theory. But he would strike you on first meeting as overly performatively a member of sort of the upper crust of American society in this time. He keeps his hair properly combed back and wears a suit wherever he goes. He's broad in the chest. He looks like a man who's wanted for nothing his whole life, fed all the best food, had anything he's asked for. But yes, he would be here with a kind of a burning fire in his eyes because he has an interest himself, but he's also here with a need to prove himself. So yeah, that's Shelby.
And across the room from Shelby, as Shelby unpacks his bags, we see another figure. Kieran, if you'd like to describe your character and a similar explanation of
Alberta, unlike Harvey, is not a handsome woman or a smart woman, but she is a very persistent and obnoxious woman. She's had a pretty hard life. I imagine she grew up on a farm, maybe somewhere near Detroit, which I think Detroit's in Michigan.
it is, yeah.
In state, yeah. She married a man who was pretty much a pillow of a man. He basically had nothing going for him. So she was forced to take up the reins of the farm and sort of act out an existence. She had 2 children, which she appropriately named Cain and Abel. At some point, she was extremely overbearing on both of her children. But it basically led to the point where her husband died in mysterious circumstances. And, well, maybe not Cthulhu-esque circumstances. She might know what happened. But, yeah. So after his death, she opened a meat locker in Detroit. She had her 2 sons working for her. But Cain mysteriously died, and she believes that her baby boy Abel may have killed him, and that he is possibly possessed by a demon, and that's the main reason she wants to join the society, so she can investigate that.
So as the scene scans over these 2 figures unpacking the bags, as they've been given a room by Thomas Kimball himself. You've been provided with the room, not only a room, whilst you've agreed to undertake this investigation, but also the princely sum of $10, equivalent to about $250 in today's money. And also he is prepared to pay any expenses otherwise you might have. But would there have been anything, as you were brought together by fate, that both Alberta and Shelby might have said to each other as they're unpacking their bags? Introductions, perhaps?
Oh, Shelby would have definitely strutted over as soon as he could see that. As soon as he got a chance to be around Alberta, he would have strutted over and held out his large, soft hand to shake hers, and introduced himself and said, "The name's Boucher, Shelby Boucher, madame."
She would shake his hand with her hardy and weathered hand. And he's like, "Skeen, Alberta Skeen. Pleasure to meet you, young man."
Yes, certainly a pleasure, as he wipes his hand off on the side of his suit. I suppose you're here for the same purpose as I. We're getting to the bottom of this little mystery.
Yeah. I want answers to do with my son Abel. And this is the only way I can think of it outside of a church. The preacher isn't a holy man, so I have to find my own devices.
I take it you are a good Christian woman under the Lord?
The Lord, yes. And you are,
He looks over Harvey.
Shelby.
Oh, yeah. He looks like a Harvey.
He does look like
well.
Harvey Dent. He would say, Christian, of course, myself, and none of that. My mother raised me right. Do you need a hand unpacking your cases, madam?
I can make do on my own, always have.
Oh, of course. And he'd do like an exaggerated bow. Just says, "Well, I'll just be across the way. Call if you need me. It's a Boucher, Shelby Boucher."
As you
Mr. Boucher.
as you go to turn away, Shelby, you see coming round the corner carrying a silver tray with two cups of warm steaming tea upon it is a young man wearing a fairly sort of crisply pressed suit with sort of a narrow tie and polished Oxfords. His hair is slicked back and neatly groomed, and he sports like a thin moustache that adds like a touch of sophistication to his appearance. He's lean but he's fairly athletic. He's got quite broad shoulders and a narrow waist, suggesting he takes quite a lot of pride in his physical fitness, much like yourself, perhaps.
Shelby's definitely sizing him up.
He walks around, and you both recognise him as Thomas Kimball. He plops in a cabinet on the centre. He plops this tray with two mugs of tea upon it, and he says, "Oh, well, it's awfully kind of you both to come and help me out and figure out all this trouble that's going on." By the way, I'm not going to be doing American accents for every character, but they are all, unless I say otherwise, they are American, just because I can't do about a million different American accents.
Alberta would go up to a tea, she'd sniff it, and she'd be like, "What's this?"
Oh, just a fine brew.
I hate to be a
Pretty
burden,
weak for coffee.
my good man, but I prefer sugar in my tea.
Oh, of course. I'll make sure to fetch some. How are you settling in? Anything? Found anything exciting yet? I suppose you even haven't gotten going yet. I'm getting ahead of myself.
We're just settling ourselves down and acquainting ourselves with each other, weren't we, Alberta?
That's right, Mr. Boucher.
Well, we're keen to get going. Two mystery hunters. I'm sure before long we'll have solved your little predicament, Mr. Kimball.
Well, I'm certainly glad to hear it. If there's any other questions you have or anything I can help provide, really, but to be honest, I've only recently sort of taken in the last year, sort of after Uncle Dougie disappeared, I've only really come into the property proper in the last sort of 6 months. As you can see, and you would have noticed on your way up, the house is practically completely bare. It looks like it doesn't look lived in anymore. He looks like he's been moving things out of here, perhaps into storage otherwise. and then he says, yes, most of it's all moved out now into storage lockers and such. Apart from Uncle Dougie's study, of course, which is well, there's hundreds and hundreds of books in there.
I only need one book, a good book.
Well,
Yes,
I'm sure he's
quite
got a few
right,
copies.
Alberta. But I do have one question, if you don't mind, Mr. Kimball. And Shelby would reach into his inner pocket of his suit jacket and pull out like a very neat-looking notebook and pencil.
Mm-hmm.
Do you, by chance, you mentioned in your correspondence that your uncle's books had been stolen?
Yeah.
Remember which books they were? Did they have a particular topic or theme? Was it indeed the good book? And he'd like wink at Alberta.
Well, I can't quite say, I'm afraid. I hadn't really seen my uncle in about, 5 or 10 years back now. Not since maybe back in '09, really. Uncle Dougie was a bit of a loner. Yeah, he liked to keep to himself. He wasn't much of a family man, not like myself. But
Was he a God-fearing man?
Not particularly, as far as I'm aware. But like I said, I didn't know him very well. I was only really contacted after the bills stopped being paid. Obviously.
Natalie, this house,
Yes.
even though it's bare, it's pretty nice, right?
Yeah, it's big. It's humble, I'd say. It's not like it's overly extravagant, but it's nice. It's it's in a quite a nice location as well. If you can ignore the local cemetery, if that doesn't bother you.
Oh no, it's useful.
I see. Well, far be it from us to make assumptions, Mr. Kimball, but you say your uncle was a loner. Do you know if he had any forgive me, madame, and he like leans towards Alberta and places presumptuously an arm on her, a hand on her arm.
She'd
For a
be like,
Yep. And he says, forgive me for speaking plainly, but any relationships of passion or otherwise? Do you know if he had
Was he a
anybody
married
up there with
man?
him? Well, indeed.
He wasn't married. No, I don't know if he had any suitors or anything. But no, he certainly wasn't married. He'd never married. Like I said, he was quite the loner. Back to your question about the books, though. One does come to mind, actually, now you think of it. It was, you see, I didn't immediately notice any books were missing. I was clearing them out, you see, and I had a big box ready. And I know I placed it on the table, and I left it there overnight, and I thought that was the last box of the evening. And when I came back in the morning, it was gone, and there was no sign of it. And I remember now, because I was packing the books into boxes, I wasn't particularly paying mind to many of them at all, but there was one on top. It was Dracula, Bram Stoker's Dracula. I remember that was sitting on the top, I'm sure of it.
My son has a particular interest in those wicked books. European, I believe.
I'm not familiar myself. I just thought the title. I mean, I've heard of it, of course, but I've never read it.
Well, perhaps
not one for fiction, me.
Perhaps we've solved our mystery immediately. Mrs. S., your son was the one that took the books. We just gotta go and speak with him.
Well, I'd be mighty easy if I knew where he was. He never left his mother until a few weeks ago.
So you say, Mr. Kimball, that it wasn't that the the perpetrator stole a book from your uncle. This was after your uncle was gone. Stole it from you.
Yes,
packing things away.
well, yes, technically, yes, stolen from me, I suppose. They were my uncle's books, and that's why I phrased it that way. But yes, it only happened, well, a little over a week ago now.
Well, how bizarre.
Yes, it's quite the mystery, really, and well, the books really are the sort of priority. I obviously Uncle Dougie went missing over a year ago, and well, the police turned nothing up, and well, presumably he's dead. But I mean, if you can find anything to see whether he is still alive, you know, maybe whoever's stealing these books is just it's just the damn kids down the block, or you know, maybe you know, they never found a body, so maybe he's snuck back in and taken his books and gone back to wherever he's hiding. Maybe with a suitor, like you said.
Unmarried. Disgusting.
Well, the constabulary isn't exactly awash with a preponderance of intellect. Mr.
Sinners.
Kimball, I wouldn't worry too much about what they might be thinking. That's why you hired us here, us upstanding investigators. We'll get to the bottom of this in no time at all. Perhaps we might see your uncle's library?
Absolutely.
Do we have free roam of this wonderful house?
Yes, of course. Yes, you're most welcome to make yourselves at home. Yes. What do they say in down across the border? Die casa something, mi casa?
I don't speak Mexican.
Mi casa es su casa, Mr. Kimball. It's
That's the one.
indeed. Well, if you're obliging, Miss S, perhaps we could go and begin our observations.
Let's.
Okay, so he leads you down to the study, and much like I said before, inside the house, Mr. Kimball has moved all the items out, leaving a rather bare-looking house, except for the study, which you see is cluttered and piled high with his uncle's books. There are books of all shapes and sizes on all subjects, identical only in that they were all very well cared for. So, how are you looking around the study then? Beginning your search. Let me just quickly check my notes for something.
Yeah, Shelby would be impressed. He'd be like, my, a man after my own heart. Maintaining a library is of the utmost importance for the upstanding gentleman.
I keep an issue of Homeowner's Guide on my toilet.
Are you an avid reader, Miss S?
Depends how long it takes.
Well, one can get lost in a tome, I find, for a long afternoon, or perhaps weeks on end. I find myself often enjoying the adventure between the pages.
My son Abel spends a lot of time with his comic books.
He's a young boy, then, is he?
Yeah, well, he'll always be my little boy. But he's in his 30.
And he's reading comic books, you say?
All kinds of riffraff. About tales from the Caribbean, the Polynesians,
How exotic.
tribal things.
Well, I could give him some recommendations, if you like. Perhaps develop him up from a comic book to a more respectable tome.
As long as it isn't any Draculas or your Frankensteins, I suppose that'd be fine.
I think it sounds like he's had enough fiction for a lifetime. I would be educating the boy on matters that will set him on a good path through life.
Pure
One
mind,
who can-
pure body. That's what I say.
And her body like tenses up, and you can see like her hearty muscles ripple through her clothes,
Yeah,
almost in anger.
Shelby's eyebrow raises on one side. Well, without further ado, I'm gonna get stuck in, start trying to get a feel for the man a library is like an open mind. I don't suppose you'd mind, and he'd like wave dismissively towards the desk if there is one, having a rifle through his desk.
I was gonna have a look of what it might be missing, if you know what I mean. Any obvious things that shouldn't be there, if you know. I've got a pretty keen eye. I can see when Abel hides his things under the bed.
Just imagine her with like one squinted eye and one big eye, like.
So you make your way over the course of an entire day. You search this disorganized mess of papers, books, and various other objects are strewn haphazardly about, such as a mosaic vase that sits upon one of the side cabinets. Every surface as you search is covered with a layer of dust, and as you pull books off of shelves, you often have to caught slightly coughing as you pull off a significant amount of dust which lands on your face, choking you slightly. You're really struck by the sort of sheer volume of books that sort of lies before you. This man, Douglas Kimball, clearly had a deep love for literature of all kinds. You see lots of different books lying around there. You see a book called The Magnificent Ambersons by Booth Tarkington. You see Tarzan of the Apes by Edgar Rice Burroughs. You see The House of Mirth by Edith Wharton. Various different, by today's standards, would be kind of classics of that era. At the end of the day, could you both make me a spot hidden check?
Oh, hell yeah. That's like the one thing I'm good at.
An extreme success. Oh my god, that's really good. You nearly got a crit.
How do you like click it?
So you should.
I'm on my character sheet.
Yeah. Whenever she's looking around, she'll be saying things from the Bible.
When evening came, many who were demon-possessed were brought to him, and he drove the spirits with a word and healed the sick.
Hey, it's weird.
8:16.
Very nice.
I can't click yours either, Tom. That is
Oh,
super
hold on.
weird.
I've got it on edit mode.
Oh, that would be why.
There we go. Oh, that looks so much nicer now. Spot hidden. Failure.
So
Yes, and you rolled a 2.
This is 17 as well.
Yep.
Shelby, you spend much of your time moving from desk to shelf, from bookcase to filing cabinet, but each step brings you almost further away from finding anything. With each sort of passing moment, the day, you feel like a sense of frustration that just you almost feel like you're on the verge of uncovering a great mystery, but every mishap of searching just thinks there's nothing to be found here. We're at a fruitless search. However, with Alberta's extreme success, you you watch over Shelby throughout the course of the day, and you make you take a little bit more time to think about, based on your son's comic book collections, and you're more used to sort of clearing out things in an efficient fashion. So you start, in fact, not just searching but just tidying. You think the best way to find something is to have a tidy workspace. So towards the end of the day, you find a cabinet that's sort of buried under piles and piles of books that your tidying sort of reveals. And the cabinet is initially locked, and you don't think of anything of it at first, but as the searching goes on throughout the day, you start to sort of ask Mr. Kimball for a cloth and a bit of polish, just to tidy things up as you go. If you're tidying up, you might as well keep things looking a little bit more varnished. And as you do, you go to you scrub a section of cabinet with this cloth, and you feel a like lump underneath the cabinet, which you go to reach up, and you realise that there is a key that's taped to the underside of the cabinet. How strange. But quickly you think, oh, perhaps this is the key to the locked to the cabinet itself, locked and perhaps not even opened by Thomas Kimball himself. Perhaps Douglas kept something a little bit more personal inside here. You take the key off and remove the little bit of the sort of tape that's sticking it there, and you click the key into the cabinet, and reveals that there's a what looks like a small diary from within. And I've got a handout.
Alberta would be like,
I'm surprised, able to do the same. Foolish boy.
Boys and their mothers.
Boy needs a good mother.
In many ways, my dear.
You sort of turn the opening page open, Alberta, and you see the name on the front. Douglas Kimball is written in quite a stylish sort of calligraphy style. There doesn't appear to be many entries, and a lot of them seem fairly mundane, but you quickly find yourself flicking to sort of the more recent entries, and you find the two most recent entries. I'll reveal the first one to you, and if you'd like, you could read it out.
God, I think she'd be... I don't know how she would be reading cursive.
Yeah, perhaps this is a
She'd
job
give
for
it
Shelby.
to him. She'd look at it, be like,
I can't read this fancy prose. Here you go, boy.
and hand it over to Mr. Boucher.
Boucher would take out a tiny pair of spectacles with no handles on, no things to go over the ears. He just holds them on the end of his nose. Dear Diary, August the 25th, 1920. Dear Diary, it has been an incredibly frustrating day. It seems like you remain my constant companion throughout these troubled times. Well, you are my other books, of course. I am truly uncertain what would ever happen if I were to somehow leave them. The people of this town have very little, if any, imagination. They simply exist and go about their monotonous lives, living in insolence. Not only that, but despite this, they nevertheless demand things of me. Even now, I am sure that there is going to be some sort of family gathering in merely a few weeks. Nevertheless, I have had the most intriguing experience. I managed to discover something, a creature, unlike any animal known to my fellow men, moving about the cemetery throughout the night while I read. It seemed to pay me no mind, but I saw it slip down the network of tunnels below the cemetery. I cannot help but be astounded and amazed by such a revelation. I must admit it is simply possible that I have been dreaming. I was reading Bram Stoker's Dracula, and he'd pause for a moment and like do a little gentle shake of his head and close of his eyes towards Alberta.
A man
But
of filthy thought.
But I think this would be an excellent source for some inspiration for a book. Sincerely, Douglas Kimball. Well, well.
And then flicking the page, Shelby, you then find the last entry in the diary.
August the 30th, 1920. Dear diary, I have been thought about it. Is that what it says?
I think so. Maybe.
I've been thought about it, and
Yeah.
I am now reaching a decision. There is little here right now, and in all honesty, I feel that I should join with my friends below. I am sorry to say goodbye to these entries, but the demands of society are becoming too much. How can one man be expected to pay his bills, make an honest living, cook meals, clean his house, all while saving time to enjoy the finest works of literature humankind has to offer? It is truly a near insurmountable challenge. Nevertheless, it is time for me to depart. I never got to finish Dracula. Goodbye. Well, if the man can't finish a simple tome like Dracula in that number of days, then... Anyway.
All this complaining about having time for frivolities. He should be working like a real man, unlike my husband. Ex-husband.
Before I forget, by the way, Kieran,
Yeah.
because you made a success on your check, if you look on your character sheet, next to the skills, next to spot hidden, there's a little circle. If you click that,
Oh, yeah.
it will check it. That will become relevant at the end of the session, when every time you're successful at a skill, you check one of those boxes, and at the end of the session we will roll to see if you get a skill improvement in one of those skills.
I thought it was when you failed stuff.
Well, in
But
fact,
maybe that's other stuff.
no, you're correct, but it's you get to check it off when you succeed at the skill during the session, but
Right.
at the end of the session you have to roll again, and if you fail, then you improve.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
Mhm. So you've done something good with the skill, but it doesn't necessarily mean you improve. You're more likely to improve, obviously, if you're already bad at the skill.
Well, I dare say you've done us a favor here, Mrs. S. Finding this little diary. It's a strange man, talking of creatures and friends below, but perhaps some clues to be getting on with.
Maybe there's more here.
Maybe. Perhaps we should inform Mr. Kimball, or do you think we should keep it to ourselves until the deed is done in completion?
We don't want to let him in on everything straight away. We'll solve his case then tell him.
Sounds like a plan to me. Well, a troubled mind, perhaps? Seeing things in the cemetery? Can't imagine what sort of animal would be sloping about a cemetery. That could be seen from afar.
There's plenty of desperate folk around. Maybe they were grave diggers.
Or a drifter, perhaps?
Drifters, yeah. Not from round here.
Indeed.
Sounds plausible.
Well, this doesn't seem too complicated. Perhaps we could go and have a look at the cemetery, see if there's any evidence. I mean, the man speaks of tunnels beneath it, so we should watch our step. Perhaps he went missing of his own accord. That seems what this seems to imply.
Sounds like he had a lot of time for doing nothing, so I suppose.
Well, indeed. He was all alone up here. A strange man by anybody's measure. Yeah, what time of day is it now? Is it getting dark?
It would be, I'd say you probably would have got here fairly early, I imagine, probably around sort of 9 or 10 o'clock, no later than that. So it's really taken you till about sort of 5 o'clock, sort of 5 p.m. at this point, I'd say it is.
Mm.
It's probably like, I'd say, probably October-ish time, so it's certainly not quite dark yet, but it's you've probably got a couple of hours maximum of sort of early October, I'd say.
Well, with the cemetery right nearby, perhaps we should have a brisk walk about the cemetery before we take supper with Mr. Kimball.
I hope his offerings for dinner are better than his tea. It's a bit British for my taste.
Yes, it is an acquired taste. My mother's sensibilities, she takes of sweet tea most every day. It's done horrors to her teeth, but wonders to her spirit, she always says.
Personally, I just prefer water.
Of course. Well, shall we?
After you, Mr. Boucher.
Most kind. And yeah, he wants to head to the cemetery.
Okay. So you make your way out the back door, and really it's within walking distance from the window. In fact, from the study itself, you could that I did forget to mention, there was a window in the study. You could look out on the from the first floor. You could see the mausoleums within walking distance of the house, and the cemetery itself, though seemingly aged with the presence of ancient trees and numerous tall bushes scattered between the gravestones and tombs, it's reasonably maintained. It's clear that this resting place has stood for many years, with the vegetation growing as a testament to its history. As you traverse the grounds, you see a gardener is spotted labouring to uproot weeds at the far end of the cemetery. The rustling of leaves and snapping of twigs beneath your feet alert the gardener, who turns and cordially gives you a sort of wave in greeting.
Good afternoon, sir. Myself, my name is Shelby Boucher, and this is the delightful Alberta Skeen.
Mrs. Skeen.
Mrs. Skeen, my apologies, none too familiar. We were wondering if we could ask you perhaps a question or two. We're just having a bit of a poke around for, in the name of Mr. Kimball up at the house.
Can you make me a charm roll, please, Shelby?
I'm the charmiest. Oh no, the charmiest man around.
Oh, you were too hoity-toity with it.
I was too hoity-toity.
That is a failure, and this is a good chance to introduce a mechanic in Call of Cthulhu called pushing the roll. So currently, failures in Call of Cthulhu, I would generally describe them as they're not going to impact you too much. So a good example that I saw listed by someone online was, say you're going to climb a wall, and you roll a regular failure. That would mean that it wouldn't necessarily even mean you tried to climb the wall. It might be like you looked up at the wall and actually you were like, fuck that, that's I don't think I'm going to be able to climb that at all. Pushing the roll, however, is you essentially committing to the action. You're going to do something slightly different. You can see that whatever you're trying is not working. But pushing the roll, you're committing to do something different, and you have to specifically describe to me what you're doing differently now than your initial approach. And as you can see, your initial approach is not working. So in this case, this guy, as you sort of go up looking all kind of quite well dressed, and you are looking too sort of like Alberta said, a bit too hoity-toity, and this guy sort of turns away looking uninterested, very unimpressed, and you don't have to push the roll, but if you'd like to,
oh no, Shelby would absolutely push the roll, and I know exactly how he'd do it, which is he would reach into his suit pocket and just be like, well, if myself, Mrs. Skeen, and my friend, God, I can't remember, Mr. Washington here, and he like holds up a dollar bill in his hand. Can't speak to you, I guess we'll just have to go elsewhere.
Okie doke. So what you can do with a push the roll as well is that as far as I'm aware, I'm reading this correctly in some way though, and you may change your approach and use an alternate skill if at this point, if you choose to. So there are 4 different sort of interaction skills in terms of social skills. There is charm, which I would describe as very like friendliness or compliments. There's persuade, which tends to be like rational arguments or perhaps using some sort of authority. There is aggression, which would fall under like intimidate. And then finally you have fast talk, which is trying to like either like con or fool or kind of impress. I'd argue, I mean, feel free to justify any of the other ones to me, but I think pulling money out to me sounds quite like fast talk.
Yeah, I'd agree. Where is it? Sorry.
Oh, I will add with a pushed roll as well.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't explain this because this is important before you actually do it. With a pushed roll, if you fail a pushed roll, there is guaranteed to be a negative consequence as a result of the pushed roll. So it's a choice of whether you go, this didn't work, or do I want to risk this and guarantee an actual negative consequence of this not working?
My fast talk is 5.
Oh, fuck. It's just like getting out money, dropping it on the floor. Like, do you want it?
It's like, I think I just imagine it being Shelby like waving it in his face, just like, come on, poor boy.
Now there is...
Oh, God.
There you go.
45, yeah. Not good. I will add another mechanic because obviously still learning, so we're still getting used to the mechanics, as I say. Another mechanic that is an optional rule that I will be running in my Call of Cthulhu games is your ability to spend luck. So you can spend as many luck as it takes to get you up to that success. So you could spend, if you wanted, 40 points of luck and it would get you a success on your fast talk. But obviously that is risky because later on, luck does play a factor into a lot of things. It can play a factor into... luck can simply be something like, say, you're looking for a... you're chasing someone in the middle of the night and you're like, fuck, I need a cab. Roll a luck check to see if a cab happens to be nearby. Or it could be a case of a fucking monster crawls out from the ground and who's it going to target first? Well, it's going to target the person with the lowest luck. So that is another option you could choose to do if you wanted to do that. Or you could take the consequences of your failure.
I like that, but I think for this check, I will take the consequences of my failure.
As you do, the man, the gardener, he's kneeling down. He sort of and you see him like grab a sort of handful of dirt in his hand, and he sort of stands up. He kind of like stumbles slightly. You notice he's kind of like off balance slightly, and he throws the dirt in your face, Shelby, and says, get out of here, you scoundrel! You can't bribe me."
Well, I never in all my life have I come across such a cad. And Shelby's like stumbling away, like trying to preen the dirt off his face.
As he keeps stumbling around, he's pointing like, "You're not welcome in my cemetery. Get on out, yeah, get on out."
Albert is going to shout at him.
That's pretty rude, young man.
Oh wait, is he young?
And no, he's probably in his late 50s, early 60s.
That's pretty rude, old timer.
As you're looking over the situation, Alberta, I think Shelby's too caught up in trying to wave his money about to get this. But can you make a nice psychology roll for me?
Perfect.
That under fighting.
Should be on the right side of the character sheet, I think.
Yeah, it is.
That is a failure. Yeah, I don't think it makes sense to push the roll on this one. I don't think.
No.
Not everything. I think not everything you can push. You can push the roll on, I believe. As far as it's sort of certain things. So you just think this guy seems pissed off at Shelby. He's just throwing dirt around, and he kind of just, as he does, he just sort of he just shouts off, "Damn young'uns, they can't bribe me!" And just sort of shouting off and then sort of walks off towards his gardening equipment and is kind of sort of nattering to himself and kind of stumbling about a bit.
I will be speaking to Mr. Kimball about this.
Come on, Mr. Boucher, let's get in there.
I'll also say another point. Both of you make a spot hidden roll. I will say this is, based on your current failures, it will need to be a hard success.
Fucking Alberta.
Which Alberta did actually roll. Shelby did not roll. On a hard success, which I don't know if either of you are familiar with how that works, but there's different levels of success in Call of Cthulhu. There's regular success, hard success, and extreme success. Hard success is half your half or less than your score. So in Alberta's case, it would have been 35 or less would be counted as a hard success.
Oh, that's cool.
And
Scales.
yes, and then a extreme success is 1/5 of your scores.
That's why we have the little numbers.
Yes, exactly. So a 26 is actually a hard success, and Alberta, as you're quite keen. I think this makes sense for Alberta to get this and Shelby to not. Shelby's just, you're covered in this horrible mud all over your nice jacket, and you're just sort of, I can't believe this rude gardener. But Alberta, as you're not quite sure why initially with your psychology roll, but then you sort of look to this man's pocket as he's kind of stumbling around, and you notice a bottle peeking out of the gardener's coat pocket. Based on the fact that he's stumbling around, you could quite easily assume that there might be alcohol in the bottle. And I will remind you, we are in the 1920s, where prohibition is enforced. So it's just a bit of information that may be useful to you.
She's going to shout at the guy.
Wine is a mocker and a beer brawler. Whoever is led astray by them is not wise. Proverbs 21.
What were you trying to get across by saying that? Were you
trying to insult him, basically, for being a drunk?
Okay, yeah, he keeps sort of wandering off, and he's not interested. He's still shouting about how dare people try and bribe him. He's unbribable.
She'll turn to Shelby and be like,
"Come on, Mr. Boucher, he's just a drunk. A criminal drunk."
Well, perhaps Mr. Kimball would like to hear about that.
Indeed. A sinner?
Absolutely outright. Well, let his rudeness and criminality not disturb our delightful evening. Mrs. S, let's have a look around the grounds, shall we?
Okey-doke.
Mr. Kimball said there were tunnels here. Perhaps there's an entrance, or perhaps he was just quite mad, or if there's an animal or a drifter, we might find evidence of remnants left behind, be they animal remnants or drifter remnants.
I'm sure that drunk would know about the tunnels. He probably goes down there to feed.
Well, perhaps you should tell him that if he doesn't tell us what he knows, then we'll report him to the nearest constabulary.
How far away is the guy now, Lee?
Probably like 200 meters now.
Oh, it's quite far. She's quite chonky, so I think she'll just proceed into the cemetery.
Okay. So you begin looking around the cemetery itself. I'm going to say, let me just quickly read something.
It's fun using ChatGPT to look up Bible verse.
I know, I was impressed you were getting them.
I mean, I don't know most.
Oh man, the AI is closing in. My students were talking about it today and everything.
Yeah, it's getting really popular, isn't it?
Yep.
Can I have both of you roll me a luck roll? Just sort of to see how long this takes. Ooh, Shelby, an extreme success and a regular success. Very good. You start wandering around the cemetery, and there's a lot of mausoleums and gravestones, and you think that, well, Douglas Kimball wrote in his diary about there being perhaps tunnels beneath the cemetery, but you don't know where to start. But you start moving your way over to an old tomb that's been worn smooth by age and weather, and with its extreme success, Shelby, you sort of think there'd be the perfect spot to perch and read a book. It's the tomb itself. It's impossible due to weathering to work out who's buried beneath it. The markings on it at all. It really is that worn smooth. But you begin looking around. Can I either have both of you make spot hidden checks or a track roll?
Oh, I knew spot hidden was going to be good. Shelby's just like, oh.
I am
You
not
give
one
it-
for intricacies.
I know my way around the graveyard. Show my son one.
Shelby, you start sort of almost massaging the top of this tomb, noticing it's very smooth, and it's just quite nice to sort of run your hand across it. And then out of the corner of your eye, you see the gardener kind of like staring at you with these huge sort of bulbous eyes, watching you very closely, and you kind of think, "Oh, better not touch that." Make sure the caretaker of this cemetery is not going to get angry at me, and you kind of like sort of back off slightly off it, unless you think you would otherwise keep massaging it.
No, he'd definitely back off.
Yeah, but Alberta, as you do, you sort of began to ignore the gardener, and you look down at the grounds, and you notice there are some strange tracks around this tombstone, which look to have been made by man-sized bare feet, as in like no shoes on. But what's most curious, that rather than toes, ending in toes, these bare feet, they end in what looks like cloven hooves. They almost look like the imprints of a large goat.
He'd look down at it, shocked, horrified.
She's like, Mr. Boucher, what do you make of those? I'd say devil tracks.
And she points at them.
Shelby would lean down dramatically. Well, devils are always an option, of course, but I would expect with something fully devilish for some kind of burning or sulfurous smell or something like that. This
Brimstone.
brimstone indeed, whereas this seems very odd. It looks as if someone's taken the front hoof of a goat's, a large goat's foot, and placed it at the end of a foot.
Strange.
Very
Around
strange.
this grave.
Where do they lead? Do they lead anywhere?
You can see, both of you now, the tracks lead through the cemetery, and they lead to the door of a mausoleum. And also, I forgot to change you over to give you an idea of what the cemetery actually looks like. I don't know if the dynamic lighting's on. If it is, I'll turn it off. Boom. So, let's adjust the music as well. Right, so I think it should be probably this one, maybe. Let's go with this one. Oh wait, not that one. Let's do this one.
Okay. Albert's picture is so good.
Fuck me, I love Albert's picture so much. It's so great. So it would lead you up to sort of up here, further along. You see that it leads to the door of a mausoleum, which is closed, and the tracks seemingly go beyond the door, but the door is closed currently to the mausoleum.
Oh damn.
What would you like to do?
So, where's the mausoleum?
It would be here.
That one. Oh, okay. She's gonna sort of look at Shelby. Is the guy looking over?
He's probably gone back to doing some more. He's probably like occasionally glancing at you, but he's definitely moved off now to sort of do some more gardening, pulling more weeds.
Mr. Boucher, I believe that the devil has retreated to the underground. Would a strong man be able to open these doors?
Well, there's only one way to find out.
Make a strength roll for me.
You letting Shelby do it? He's not that strong. He's just big.
Would he look? Would he look like he's gonna try, or would
He definitely look like he's gonna try. Yeah, he wants to impress everyone. Yeah, he'd go up,
Yeah.
roll up his sleeves even further, just be like, "Stand aside, madam. I have you know I swam for county." Oh!
He did swim for county.
As he does, you see the rippling swimming muscles of Shelby. It's a tough door, Shelby, but you yank it open. It do manage to. It scrapes along the floor as you do. And within the mausoleum, you both begin to cough as he opens the door. Could you both please make I think it's Constitution. I think that's the right skill.
As he opened the door, I'll be like,
You do well down the meat locker, Mr. Boucher.
Well, my dear, I'll call you if the professor gig doesn't work out.
A hard success for Alberta, and a success for Shelby. You both begin coughing as this awful smell of like sulfur and brimstone begins kind of exuding from the tomb itself, almost like a miasma that sort of comes over you. But you both sort of cover your mouths and kind of stop coughing into your clothes, and you kind of hold it back. Inside, you see that there is a tomb that's been, the top of it, pushed aside onto the floor. And within, there is what looks like a hand-dug tunnel leading down below the earth.
You say it smells of brimstone and sulfur.
It does, yes.
Shelby would go quite pale. He'd be like, "Oh, Mrs. S, I was being foolish mentioning brimstone before, but can you smell what I'm smelling?"
Smells like the ninth level of hell in here. I'm not surprised at those cloven hooves.
Well, I've read accounts of encounters with devilish spirits or strange folk with serpent eyes or the whip of a tail under their clothes, but I'd be lying if I said I expected to actually see or smell something like that.
You've been reading too many of those comic books, Mr. Boucher.
Madam, they are not comic books. I've been reading the finest tomes in the university. But, well, do you think we should be, descending, or perhaps it's time we report in to Mr. Kimball? I wouldn't mind another spot of sweet tea.
she looked down into the sort of depths.
He probably would like to know someone's been disturbing the dead.
Well, all right then. Let's have a quick march back up to the house now. And Shelby quickly turns on his heel and walks back towards the house.
Is there anything to prop the door open? Like this big rock, or is that too big?
You could probably find something nearby like that. You could probably find a wheelbarrow if you needed to.
It's done like a wheelbarrow. The guy might move it.
Yeah, there would be some big blocks, but I mean, it's the door is so heavy that it's not going to be shut with the wind or anything like that.
Oh, okay.
It's a big stone door.
She just wants to kind of keep it open in case this guy comes, and also to air it out a bit.
I mean, if you left it definitely would not close on its own.
Okay, she'll leave it then.
Okay, so you make your way. Oh, excuse me, I'm quite gassy. You make your way up the winding path through the cemetery and back towards the Kimball house, looking at the window of the study as you do, and up to the window above of your spare bedrooms above. And from the window of the study you see Thomas Kimball looks outwards and sort of gives you a cordial wave, and you make your way back inside the back door where he greets you, and he just says, "Oh, having a fun day of investigating, are we? I popped out to get something some food for this evening for my two fine investigators. I've got a nice stew on the go."
Sounds good.
How goes the searching? I saw you made nice work of Uncle Dougie's study. You've cleaned that up real good. Awful mess it was. He was never the most organized, from what I can tell, anyway.
I believe a demon has emerged from your mausoleum.
Excuse me, madam? A demon?
Cloven feet led to the mausoleum, which smells of fire and brimstone. Someone's dug his way out.
He kind of looks to you, Shelby, like, has she gone mad, sort of thing, and kind of like really kind of looking at you, like, you know, what is she talking about? He's quite like, he looks quite bemused.
Yeah, Shelby's got his arms crossed with one hand on his chin, like stroking it, and he's frowning deeply, looking at the floor and scratching his chin. It's like, I'm afraid, Mr. Kimball, I share the concerns of Miss Skeen. It's most strange, the smell of brimstone and sulphur, the look of a goat's cloven hooves upon the floor, but at the end of, instead of toes. Most awful. Oh, and by the way, is that your gardener out there?
Oh, no, he's not mine. He works for the cemetery. He's the caretaker. I think his name is Jefferson or something.
Well, he's a drunk and a fool, and he very rude. He threw dirt upon myself.
I saw him carrying a bottle of moonshine on him as well.
I have it my right mind to report him to the authorities.
I'm sure a few days in the slammer will fix his errant brain.
Quite right. I'll report that. I will. We can't have. No wonder the place is so overgrown if he's not only breaking the law, drinking, but drinking on the job of all kinds of things. Such unprofessionalism.
Sin starts with the bottle.
Quite right, ma'am.
I don't, but not to distract from the matter at hand,
Yes, well, I do, I mean, you are the experts, but I find it awful, I hope I haven't hired, well, I don't mean to speak rudely of you, but two mad folks. I hope you haven't been on the bottle yourself.
How dare you?
She'd look very angry at him.
Yeah.
I haven't. I was in two minds about the tea, let alone the bottle.
I did not mean to speak cruelly of you, ma'am. I just it's such a farcical story. I mean, surely some kids or something are playing pranks. I heard of one story where some children were putting on big kind of lizard feet and marching up and down the beach and creating tracks out more further east.
Out east, you say? Sounds about right.
Perhaps this is what's happening here. Maybe their bloody kids are making tracks for some kind of creature, and well, maybe they broke in and stole Uncle Dougie's books.
You sound like kids, all right.
Well, quite.
Well, look, Mr. Kimball, if you've got no interest in the opinions of aspiring members of the Society of the Unexplained, then we can simply take our leave.
No,
We didn't come here to be insulted or have our integrity questioned.
No, I apologize. You are the experts. Uh, I'll I'll leave it in your hands. You do whatever you think's best to find Uncle Dougie's these stolen books and, well, hope maybe any sign of Uncle Dougie himself. If you truly think there's something unholy about what's happening, well, I hope you can get to the bottom of it and sort whatever this out. I can't well, whatever it is, I can't have trouble on this house. I'm looking to sell it.
We will, of course, get to the bottom of things. We are professionals.
Of course,
Smiles at Alberta.
I would if you could make sure to keep I appreciate you investigating this matter, and obviously I leave it in the experts' hands if this is, like I said, something unholy, but could I ask both of you to keep it quiet? I don't wish to spread news of to create some sort of haunted house story. Like I said, I do wish to sell my uncle's abode. I would be happy to pay you an extra $2 each. I think that's quite generous.
It's rather generous.
Yeah, so generous.
I'm sure it's just kids, like you say, but us Christians must keep an open mind about nefarious dealings. I just call it as I see it.
Well, I'll stay on the stew and leave leave both of you to figure out what's going on. Is there anything else I can do for you both?
No, we simply wanted to keep you updated. What do you think, Mrs. S? We
I
got...
was just gonna ask if you have some sort of light so we can go down into the mausoleum.
Oh well, I'm sure there's a perhaps there's a lantern in the study. I've moved most of the other things out. Let me and you would remember now, Alberta, as you were tiling things up, you did see that there was an old gas lantern that was in the study, perhaps used to light the room for reading in the darker months of winter. And he would bring you out the gas lantern with the appropriate materials to light it, if you needed to do so.
Well, alright then. How long do you think on the stew, Mr. Kimball?
Well, probably I'd say it'd be ready by sundown, so we're probably looking at another, well, hour or hour and a half, maybe.
Mrs. S, shall we?
I'm sure we'd find those kids or those easterly folk if we put our minds to it.
Alright then, let's head there.
Okay, so you're heading back down to the mausoleum.
Mm-hmm.
So you make your way back down the hill after informing Mr. Kimball of your progress. You make your way back to the mausoleum. Its stone door still standing, left open as you left it, Alberta, and you make your way back above the hole, now with a lit gas lantern holding it over. You can see the hole itself is it's big enough for a person easily, but it's also tight. You think it goes down maybe 5 or 6 feet before it looks like it curves offwards, and you think you'd probably have to go down head first if you wanted to explore this. Otherwise, the angle you'd have to go down to get on your feet and then twist around, it would not enough space.
she would gesture.
I would suggest you go first, Mr. Boucher. I don't want to see a gentleman seeing my behind.
Shelby would go bright red with that and just be like, "Oh, well, of course. I wouldn't dream any other arrangement. If you be so kind as to hold the lantern as I descend."
I'll do my best.
Yeah. Shelby's gonna look distastefully at the dirty sides of the tunnel, but he's gonna try and scrabble down.
Yep, so you scrabble down into the hole. You going down head first?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's you can do it. I'm not going to make you make a check to do it. It's definitely difficult, but you manage to crawl yourself down into the hole. It's tight and you'd have to go forward. You can see the tunnel just goes onwards and you'd have to crawl on your hands and knees to keep going.
Ugh. Shelby's like, ugh, wish I were back in the library. If the boys hear about this.
Not the boys.
The boys. And yeah, he's crawling in and he calls back up. It's like, all clear, Mrs. S. If you'd like to descend.
I'm coming.
Just like a cannonball going down the shaft.
Now, Bertie, you continue into the tunnels yourself. Can you both make me, actually, whoever's bet, let's say Shelby, because you're first. Can you make me a navigate roll?
Oh, yes.
It's pitch black down here.
Look at all these useful skills I've put points into. Oh!
Oh, yeah.
Oh!
Success.
I rolled a
9.
9.
10. Amazing. A regular success. You begin crawling and wandering around the dark tunnels on hands and knees, slowly and surely, going through this dark tunnel, roots sometimes coming through and scratching you as you go. You keep going, and it feels like this tunnel goes forever. After about 10 minutes of crawling, it branches off in multiple different paths. Which path do you choose, Shelby? There are 4 in front of you heading off in sort of a east to west direction in front of you.
4?
4 paths. One would be sort of more northeast to more slightly lessly north to northwest and etc. Kind of like the branches of a tree heading up.
Shelby's definitely a complainer. So 10 minutes of crawling through these tunnels, he would multiple times just been like, "This is quite ridiculous, Mrs. S. That esteemed investigators such as you and I should have to crawl on our hands and knees like a dog."
I'm sure those kids were much faster than me. Look at this old timer covered in dirt, not blood.
As he
more
gets
blood at the meat locker.
to the 4, oh man, he'd kind of panic a little bit to himself, and then just be like, "All right, the instincts of the Boucher can never let you down. Let's go for the far right tunnel."
So, you head eastward, crawling more. And this tunnel, now you realise, after another 10 minutes of crawling, is not ending.
Jesus.
and you crawl for longer, and you realise there's no turning back.
Yep.
There's no way we could turn around. We'd have to shuffle backwards, and then who knows how difficult it would be. So forward seems like the only option. And you crawl and crawl, and you become more and more exhausted. More and more tired, as almost an hour, perhaps more, pass. You are covered in mud. And eventually, Shelby, you see a light at the end, and what looks like...
Press that accidentally.
Wasted that extreme success. What looks like a light coming down. The light of moonlight, though. It is now dark outside, wherever the exit to this tunnel leads.
Shelby would have hit panicky mode a while ago, and it's only because Alberta can only see Shelby's butt that she can't see he's got tears on his streaked face. So as soon as he sees the light, just be like, "Oh, salvation!" and just start like crawling as fast as he can towards the light.
Alberta would be like,
There's no way kids dug this tunnel. They don't have it in them.
Shelby's just scrabbling as fast as he can.
As you get to the edge, you pull yourself back up out of the hole, breathing heavily, desperate to get out, and you climb back out, and on your hands and knees you look around, and you're back where you started.
What?
Within the mausoleum.
I don't understand. We crawled for what felt like hours.
Why would there be a tunnel going around in a circle?
It was a straight line. This doesn't make any sense, Mrs. S. Oh, I'm glad to be out of there. And he like spits on his hands and starts like wiping. Takes a little handkerchief out of his pocket. Starts wiping his face down.
As you do, Shelby, you wipe your sort of mud out of your eyes, and the moonlight now shining as you sort of move your way out of the mausoleum. And on the smooth gravestone, just opposite where you were running your hands along before, in the shadow of the moonlight is a figure perched on the edge of the gravestone. How do you react?
Alberta would pull out her Bible and be like,
Back off, you foul fiend! We don't want any of you. Moonshine!
Yeah, Shelby would rub his eyes and just be like, "Is it the gardener again? You foul drunk?"
The figure
Like,
does not.
Blinking blearily.
The figure does not respond, but you see its head slightly turn towards you in acknowledgement, but then looks back down, almost like it's staring downwards.
into the grave.
It's perched on the edge of the grave. It's hard to make out because it is so dark, and it's just a shadowed figure. It looks like it's staring down at its own lap.
Shit.
Now you listen here. I've been crawling for hours and I don't want any of this. My suit's covered in dirt. I've been staring at nothing but pitch black tunnels for hours. I don't want any of this ridiculous behavior. I'm gonna go and have some stew.
You get yourself some tea, Mr. Boucher.
And some tea. And he starts like he keeps his eyes on the figure perched, but he like starts skirting around towards the house where the house is.
Well, unfortunately, the figure sits on the gravestone sort of here, so you'd have to go past it to reach the house. But as you get a little bit closer, Shelby, the light of the moonlight sort of reveals this figure a little more from just the shadow as you saw it before. You see that the figure is... Now you get a closer look at its face. You see that it's a foul-looking humanoid, naked, but covered in caked mud and mould, whose face is bestial, with large canine teeth and a rudimentary canine-like snout in place of a human nose. The most chilling thing, however, is that from the pictures you were shown by Thomas Kimball, is that its face has an uncanny resemblance to Douglas Kimball. Can I have, as both of you move up and recognise this, I need you to both make 2 sanity rolls.
My mind!
Do them one at a time together so I can see. So, okay, that is a success for Alberta.
Oh my god, you have so much sanity!
Somehow.
I want to check that I got this right, because sanity was one of the last things I did when I first worked on the sheet.
Yeah.
How do you calculate your sanity?
Let's quickly check.
It's like
How do you
hour with
calculate
I think the character sheet does auto-calculate it, I think.
mine didn't.
Oh, didn't it?
I had to put it in.
Let's have a look. Damn you, ChatGPT, you stopped working. How do you calculate sanity in... Boom. It's equal to your wisdom score multiplied by 5.
My wisdom score.
Which would actually it'd probably be a will score, sorry. And let me just double check that.
Is that power? Like willpower?
Yes, it would be. So let me just double check because it said...
Oh, okay. So it's just the same as my willpower, which is 35.
Yes, I think that. So let me just double check.
I'm a baby.
Let me double check that because it's the first thing that came up. Pow is also starting San. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
A failure.
What?
Well, you're lucky it wasn't more because you could have got a fumble, which would have been... A fumble is when you get, I think it's from, if you're under 50 in the score, if it's a 97 to 100. And if you are above 50, then it's a 99. So you didn't fumble, which is good.
Good.
However, you do lose... in this case, Alberto doesn't lose any sanity points for the first roll. You lose 1d6 sanity points. So roll a d6 for me.
Oh!
5. That's bad. As you see, as you move closer, you're like moving closely up, Shelby. Suddenly you see this face and you just let out this horrible scream and you fall backwards and you're just shaking. And whenever an investigator loses 5 or more sanity points in one instance, they need to make an intelligence roll.
Okay.
If the intelligence roll is passed, then the investigator has understood the full implications of the situation and is driven temporarily insane. You want to fail this check.
Oh no, that's so bad for me. Okay. I have an intelligence score of 80.
God.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
So usually, in this case, I would roll on the bouts of madness table. as you are driven temporarily insane. In this case,
cool.
because we're doing the starter box,
Yeah.
we're just going to have a specific one that I choose, and so for the next, if you roll me a d10.
Yeah. 7.
So for the next, what is 6 times 7? Somebody.
42.
For the next sort of 42 seconds, you just begin screaming uncontrollably, rocking back and forth on the floor.
Yeah, he'd be shrieking. And just rocking and clutching his knees.
Mm-hmm.
Staring at the figure.
That was the first sanity check. You need to make a second one now. Both of you.
And that's using my new sanity score. Oh, shit.
A failure for Alberta.
Oh!
And a hard success. So you do lose 1 point of sanity. Still for this one. For Shelby, you lose 1 point of sanity.
Okay.
And then Alberta, you lose 1d4. So you lose 2 points of sanity, and you also involuntarily begin just shouting and just screaming and just pointing at this figure.
She's gonna be like, "I wish you demons were real," and she would like stand in front of Shelby because she's still kind of like a little bit. Be gone, foul demon! Holding up her Bible at it.
Yeah. The creature begins sitting there and almost raises an eyebrow in your direction and just looks at you and says, in kind of multiple pitches all at once coming from its throat, just says, "Hello."
Nope, your microphone can't do that.
It just says, "Hello."
Oh. I mean, Shelby's rendered fucking...
Yeah, Shelby's on the floor. How do you react, Alberta?
Which one of the devil sent you here? What's your purpose?
It just looks to you, and you see in its hands it's holding a book.
Throw it on the floor.
It continues just to stare at you, Alberta.
So hard to know what to do.
Shelby's like clutching Alberta's leg at this point. Just muttering to himself, just like, you know what this means? Oh, the theories, all the ideas, they're all wrong.
She'll start walking towards it, and she'll get her necklace, which is a cross, and she'll be like mumbling Bible verses as she slowly gets closer.
Yeah. He just looks up at you and just says, "I never had much time for the Lord."
What are you? Creature from the depths of hell?
He kind of looks down and just says, "We're not so different. I just wish to be left alone so I can read my books."
Did you take the books from the house?
He kind of looks towards the house and says, "I had to come back one last time to get my copy of Dracula. My friends in the Twilight world, they will close this way for good soon. There's so much to see and experience in the world below, in the Twilight. I can't wait to write my own book all about it.
Well, we need that book. The nephew sends here to get it back. And then he can be gone for good.
Do me a... I'm going to say a hard, I think, persuasion check.
Yeah, she's too scared to try and be intimidating or anything like that. Come on. Oh.
He just says, I'm sorry, but I have to finish it.
With trembling hands, Shelby has like gotten himself to his feet and just leaning over like Alberta's shoulder. He kind of whispers to her. He's like, "Maybe you know something about your husband, gone missing. There's another world. Maybe he's there."
My husband was a sinner. He would be down in hell.
I can tell you about the Twilight below, if that is where you think your beloved lies.
Oh, he wasn't beloved. He was a bad man. But I would like to know what happened to him and what he suffers from now.
It can be a hard and unpleasant truth to fresh ears. And he turns to you, Shelby.
What?
Do you wish to hear? There is no turning back.
My God. Shelby is caught in so many different minds right now. He's fucking terrified. All his preconceptions. But if there's one thing that will always cut through with Shelby Boucher, it's that he always has to be the smartest man in the room. So he would kind of like croak out, just like, yes.
He nods, and he begins to tell you of stories of another world below our own, another place. And as you listen, you slowly both find yourselves going into an almost catatonic state at both the unveiling of knowledge before you. Can you both lose 1d4 sanity?
Oh god.
Both lose 4. But on the bright side, the truth the unpleasant truth.
Sets you free.
It awakens your mind, and you both gain +3 points in the Cthulhu Mythos skill.
Oh.
Damn.
After he finishes telling you, you both sort of sit there, mouths slightly ajar, and he says, "I must return now. You may join me if you wish. But if you stay, please tell my nephew that there will be no more thefts. And please do not tell him I am still alive." He sort of gets up and begins moving his way towards the mausoleum. What do you do?
How do we get out of here?
You are home. I go to the below now. You may come with me if you choose. You can experience the twilight for yourselves. Life is wondrous there. You do not need money. You do not have to dress for dinner. You do not have to meet people except at meal times. And you can read whenever you want, day or night.
No, thank you, sir.
I'd rather live out my time on this God-forsaken earth. At least I know it.
Did I choose the right path?
He just looks at you, stares at you both for a second, and then moves towards the mausoleum and pulls the door shut from the inside. And from within the tomb, although you can't see it, the creature that was once Douglas Kimball crawls into the hole and pulls the large stone slab over the entrance to seal it behind him. And the day and the night comes to a close. And we will end the session there.
I think Alberta's expression on her taken is exactly how she'd look after hearing all that.
Yeah, that's definitely what I was imagining. Well, I will say before we end the session, have you guys been checking off your successful checks?
I don't think Shelby passed the successful skill check. He passed some
He got a navigate check.
Yeah, he did get navigate.
Oh, he did get the navigate. Thank you. So yeah,
Just looking up now.
And you did spot hidden, I
You
think.
got a spot hidden.
Did I?
No, I think Alberta
no,
got a spot hidden.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think Alberta got spot hidden. Shelby did not get much.
Yeah.
I don't think Alberta got anything else.
No, I don't think you did either. Navigate for Shelby.
Yep, I've ticked that.
Okay, those
25
two.
sanity left.
So we move
Cool.
into the investigator improvement stage at the end of the session. So you can roll a check for each of the ones you passed, ticking them off again as you do. If you fail the check, you will improve, and then you'll roll a d10. So Shelby fails, so he improves at navigating, so roll a d10. So you can raise your navigate skill by 5.
That's
Unfortunately, spot hidden, Alberta, you're too good at it, so you do not improve.
Man, what a cool fucking game.
Yeah.
It was awesome. It's a bit completely different style, wasn't it?
I fucking I love Alberta so much.
Yeah, she's
Back,
so
you
great.
devil! Walking this earth! My husband was a sinner.
Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I like how just from the system itself, how you react completely differently to situations.
Mm-hmm.
Like Weird Devil, like in D&D, you'd be like, "Oh yeah, go take it out," but in this one, it's like, "What?"
Yeah, you're just like, oh fuck.
Yeah,
I love the smarter you are, the worse you can handle the
Yeah.
reality breaking shit. I love that so
You
much.
got it the worst way around, Tom. You've got like high intelligence and low sanity.
Yeah. Oh, he's ready to snap. He's a frail boy. That's absolutely how I imagine him. Like as soon as his perfect little world of being the smartest boy comes tumbling down, he's just there like, ooh.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'd like to point out that, I think you've got one of you's got 12 hit points, the other's got 13, and a pistol, just for an example, does 1d10 damage.
Yeah.
So one shot can basically like instantly kill you if you've got a HP, and if you take a certain amount of your HP, you get like a major wound as well, which you just instantly knocks you unconscious and you just start dying. So you don't even need to lose all your HP to start dying, basically.
So with her brawl with the knife,
Mm-hmm.
she got extreme success, so she would have done 12 damage.
Yeah, you would have done 12 damage.
Damn, fucking shanked him up.
So if you stabbed Shelby, it would have like majorly wounded him.
If she stabbed the equivalent of herself, it would basically kill her.
Yeah. And it's we didn't get into combat. What's interesting with say if you rolled a brawl there, and you were rolling against Shelby, you'd have two options. You'd have the option to either fight back or dodge. When you fight back, you have to get a better level of success to not take the damage and then do a strike back. But if you dodge, you just need to tie. So it goes in when you're dodging, it's in your favour. So no, you would have got stabbed to death.
Oh yeah, that was her rolling low, well, middle, because she's big, so she gets to plus 1d4.
You do,
so
yes.
she can do d8 damage and 2d4 damage with the knife.
Pretty badass.
Fuck me. Are they maximised on extreme damage?
Yes, they are. You take full damage on extreme, I believe.
Damn. Oh, I like this game. It's cool.
I really like it. It's
really
I
different.
like as well how if you try and use skills you're not good at, you actually it kind of benefits you in the long run.
I love it's something I've always missed from the bloody Elder Scrolls playing days. The system of you get better at what you do. You do stuff, you get better at it. I really like that. Rather than a static character sheet. And I like the push the roll thing. That's really cool.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that as well.
It gives people more freedom to just kind of try stuff, and then only when they want to commit to things, they go for it.
Yeah, and it's quite good how your character's kind of bad at most things. But they're quite good at what you initially put. Like, you could have very specific characters, which are like...
Exactly, you could like have a character that's like, I'm the fucking master of ancient Egyptian kind of like languages.
Yeah.
Look at my psychology. Oh no, I got failure.
You got more successes there than you did the whole session.
Yeah.
Yep. So interesting. I love the It's like Kieran was saying with the comparison to D&D. I think it's about time. I really want to play a system, which this is perfect for, where you don't. It's not about fulfilling like a power fantasy.
Absolutely.
You're just a person. You're a human. You're a
Mhm.
human being trying to deal with things that break your brain. And I love the like having to think on that level. I love that. Yeah, you were just like, we need a lantern to go down the hole.
Yeah, I was so
Oh,
like, I was wondering if you guys were gonna go down there to be like, I see a hole, be like, well, fuck
yeah.
that.
Oh, Shelby, 100%. I don't know how if I played it up well enough, but Shelby, when they first
Yeah.
found that hole, he was like, "Yeah, let's go back and have some dinner. I don't
Yeah.
like this at all."
Oh yeah, yeah. I fucking love the system. It's for me. It's such a joy to run as well. I've always like I still love running D&D obviously, and I'm sure I'll run Loving Pathfinder. But I've always it does. It is sometimes me sort of like feels like kind of rubbing against the system sometimes the wrong way and doesn't quite do what I want to do. And this is like absolutely perfect for the kind of games I want to run, like just intrigue and horror and just having that, like for example, just like in Curse of Strahd, like trying to run a horror game with that system, it just it never felt like you could do horror properly because it was just the players naturally, because you've got all these cool skills and it's hard to scare people when you're not vulnerable.
It's exactly as you say. It's a system that is specifically not designed to be scary because you're meant to overcome every obstacle.
Yes, exactly.
So even with Strahd, you're just like, well, eventually we'll get strong enough to take you down, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas I love the feeling here when the and Douglas was just like, you can come to the twilight, and I was just there like, I don't want to go to the twilight. Like there was no thought in Shelby's mind of being like, yeah, I can handle it. I was just like, no, I want to go home.
Also,
I'm scared.
Cool thing you could do, Natalie, is use like this system, but for Ravenloft. If you wanted to.
Yes, I have thought about that. I thought about running a Call of Cthulhu campaign set in Valaki, where you're just citizens of Valaki, and you're trying to like uncover some kind of murder or something and see what happened to somebody. Would be quite cool. But
nice playing in a different aesthetic, right? Like the 1920s as well.
Absolutely.
So cool. Yeah.
That's one thing I'm super excited about. It's just to do like real world stuff, and it just feels so different doing non-fantasy, and you know, just like, and I think it allows every single player around the table or online table to, you've all got an understanding because it's the real world, and it's like players like Anya will come in and just be like, well, I don't need to understand the lore of this fantasy world to engage, like. Just you guys starting to do the Christianity stuff at the beginning, I was like, that's so fucking cool, like...
Yeah, it really is.
It was interesting playing a character who did believe in demons, but had never actually seen one, but believed they existed, but not in the way that they thought they existed.
Yes.
Like, hearing about the Twilight, it's just kind of like, does that mean there's a... heaven?
Yeah.
It's all hell?
Is it all just bad? God, I just love the thought of continuing to play Shelby with the whole like rolling. Like, does Shelby understand the implications of what he's witnessing right now?
Exactly. And what's extra cool about the Cthulhu Mythos skill as well is that I'm not read massively into it, but from what I have read and watched videos on, from what I'm led to believe, is that the idea with the Cthulhu Mythos skill is the higher you get in it, the idea is that you're going deeper down the rabbit hole, and now you've got points in it. Now you're going to start attracting stuff that's going to come to you, sort of thing. So now you can't. Now you've got points in the Cthulhu Mythos skill, you can't really escape it. It's part of you now, and you so like, and what I love about this system for me as well as a DM or GM or whatever is I love how the scenarios are set up, because I was listening to someone talk about Call of Cthulhu compared to sort of Dungeons and Dragons and stuff, and I think with Dungeons and Dragons, I think like it's almost, and Pathfinder to an extent as well. I think it's the adventures, whilst some of them are fantastically written and stuff, I think they're very designed with kind of like a certain sort of mindset in mind, and they're very often very combat heavy because you can't, it's very hard to write a book that sort of goes into sort of deep like role playing sort of mindsets of each character and stuff. And I think what I love about the Call of Cthulhu scenarios as well is just that, and often because you've got the adventures in D&D, you've got these big campaign books where realistically they are designed to be run as one big thing. And obviously, even Pathfinder has the adventure parts, which kind of separate them up a bit, but ultimately they are kind of meant to be run together, sort of. And obviously you can pick and choose, but I think that's where sort of, I think Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder's strength lies, really, is where you take these things and you homebrew them, and it's, and to a degree you can sort of go, I'll take this dungeon and I'll just put it in my own world and make it my own thing, and that's kind of the fun of it. But what I love about Call of Duty for me is that coming up with mysteries, I think, is quite a lot harder than just making a dungeon, because and I think it makes running the modules a lot more compelling for me, because it's all written for me. I enjoy that. I like having the modules written for me, because the way they've designed it, there is big campaigns. There's like Masks of Nyarlathotep, which one day I would love to run, which is like, apparently takes like 2 years to finish. It's so fucking, it's got something like, it's got like 200 NPCs apparently in the book. Apparently it's really long, and there's no guarantee you'll get all the way through it. You could just fucking die.
Yeah, like Shelby. Like, how fucking long can Shelby last
he's
when
got
he's understanding
25 sanity left,
Yeah.
baby.
already?
There is ways to recover sanity. There is ways to recover sanity. Like
Drinking sugary tea.
Well, actually, I think drinking is one of the ways you technically sort of can recover sanity, if I'm correct. But I think you can go to therapy and stuff, and you can like, there's lots of different things you can do. But
The interesting thing with characters like Shelby, though, is because he's so learned, it's almost like he would drive himself more insane, because he's like, I've learned about this crazy thing.
Exactly.
I want to understand more about this crazy thing, but then
1,000,000%.
try and like understand it, but then you just get dragged into it even more, and you're like, I assume that guy who, the reading guy, I assume he went down that path.
Exactly, yeah. But yeah, what I was saying is, there is long campaigns like that, but most of them are just sort of these little individual scenarios that the game encourages you. That's why I put the society in. It encourages you to have the players either create kind of a detective agency or join a society for like the unexplained, and then you can sort of link all the adventures together via having this sort of central thing, but they're all little different mysteries, and then it encourages you to sort of be like, let's take Shelby and Alberta. And so when I eventually run the next, because this starter box has sort of 6 different scenarios in it, I think it is.
Nice.
So the next one, you could both play Shelby and Alberta again. And then, and then because this one's really designed for 1 to 2 players, but most of the other ones are designed for 3 to 4 players. So then we can bring Hannah and Anya in, and then you guys can still play these characters if you want to. Of course, you can just move on to another character. But
you want to play Shelby again?
And and also
get 0 sanity.
You can jump around with like the time and stuff. So we could join Anya and Hannah like a year later, after you've had like, nothing's happened in that year in terms of necessarily mystery wise to you yet, but that's, you've had a time to sort of a year to unpack this entire situation or something.
Oh yeah.
It's just I just absolutely fucking love the system.
Oh. One thing I guess we probably should talk about with Vale ending so soon is what we're going to do with Thursday.
That's a good point. We should talk about that. I'm going to quickly stop the recording, though, so we can...
Yeah.